And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the news. We'll share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you are listening anywhere else and you'd like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk, and on Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And you can find me on Rumble, and that is Coffee Talk 2, the number 2 on Rumble. And I'll remind you, if you are watching on Rumble, I cannot see your comments. I can only see the comments coming from YouTube because Restream doesn't work very well, unfortunately. And as always, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. And I'll say hello to some of the people that have been able to chime in so far. I see Jimmy has joined us, as well as Johnny, Helter, Bob, Tuck, Dragon, Brian, JJ, Raccoon is here. I feel like, again, Magic Mirror on Romper Room saying hello to everyone. And there is hello, goodbye. Glad we could make it today. And obviously, we are talking a lot about the wildfires that have been going on in California that made its way all the way into Los Angeles, unchecked pretty much, and why some of that could have occurred. And we do have one feline in the room, by the way, for those of you who are keeping track. That is Miss Kitty, sleeping in the chair behind me. Miss Kitty keeping me company today. There's a lot to unpack here. There really is. I see South Florida has joined us, a.k.a. Doug. Glad you could make it, Doug. There is a lot to unpack with all of this because there's plenty to say and plenty of blame to go around because this whole thing has been completely mismanaged. I mean, yeah, act of God. They're speculating on it, or what could have started the wildfires. They really don't know. For all intents and purposes, most likely it was naturally occurring because that's something that happens all the time. And no, Bernie Sanders, it doesn't have anything to do with climate change and global warming, which, by the way, he's already said and is under a great deal of fire for. Bernie Sanders did indeed say that publicly, like I think this morning, and he's already getting kicked in the teeth for it because people are like, shut up, climate change. We don't want to hear it anymore. Wildfires happen in California all the time, always have. And New York Patriot has joined us. Glad you could make it today. So they don't know yet whether or not it was naturally occurring or somebody might have said it. Somebody might have said it. And of course, all the celebrities are crying. Paris Hilton is crying because her house burned down. And Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, crying about it. And who else? Jamie Lee Curtis is crying about her house. And to his credit, the station manager from Fistful of Radio, which, I podcast to, fistfulofradio.com, he made a crack that I wanted to share because he said if those celebrities had left the country after Trump won like they promised, they wouldn't be having these problems. That is correct. They would not have to deal with this if they had actually left like they promised to. But they're not going anywhere, and we know that, don't we? We're going to start here really quick with some of the basics. And this is going to be an Associated Press article. And D'Lo has joined us. Glad you could make it today. Uh-oh. Here we go. It's Restream getting funny again. South Florida says, if it was an act of God, why did all the insurance companies drop everyone months ago? They don't want to insure anybody out there anyways because the taxes and everything have gotten so high. I mean, yeah, you could speculate about it being deliberately set for a land grab. That's another topic of discussion. But the main reason that they gave was because they could no longer justify the insurance. And D'Lo thinks it was done on purpose. And Jane has joined us. He said, someone starting fires in the wealthy homes in Hollywood and other places in California. There are fire starters among them. There could be. And hello, goodbye. It says, planning to burn us all out of our hideouts. No, they, if anything, if it was deliberately set and there was a big scam involved, it's for a land grab. Because a lot of billionaires have been buying up years of land, mostly in San Francisco, actually, and in Upper California, so they could build their little 15-minute cities. So, Associated Press, what to know about thousands of evacuations and homes burned in Los Angeles area fires. Says at least 5 people were killed and thousands of structures were burned as fierce wildfires raged in the Los Angeles area. Fast-moving flames blazed through homes and businesses as residents fled smoke-filled canyons and picturesque neighborhoods that are home to many celebrities. Many of the towering fires that began Tuesday were fueled by powerful Santa Ana winds, which gusted to more than 70 miles per hour in some spots. The winds dropped Thursday, but the National Weather Service warned that even the reduced gusts could still spread fire rapidly, and the wind is expected to strengthen again Tuesday evening. Another round of strong winds may form Tuesday. So the exact death toll remained unclear Thursday morning, but the total is expected to rise as crews begin to search through the rubble. Governor Newsom said the state has deployed more than 1,400 firefighting personnel to battle the blazes. Oregon, Washington, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona were dispatching teams to assist. What they don't tell you here, and they're not going to, is that a big chunk of that 1,400 are prisoners on fire detail. That in regions like this, actually, state prisons train prisoners as reserve firefighters, but more like smoke jumpers, actually, I think is the term, because they don't handle firefighting equipment. They're the ones that run out there with picks and shovels and masks and try to dig trenches or things like that. But a lot of that number is going to be prisoners. They just don't tell you that. It says AccuWeather estimated 52 billion to 72 billion in preliminary damage and economic loss has occurred from the fires. It says thousands of structures have been damaged or destroyed. The hilly coastal neighborhood of Pacific Palisades, making it the most destructive fire in Los Angeles history. Some amazing photographs coming out of this, by the way, I've got to say. I always get sidetracked by that sort of thing. It's some amazing photographs as we catch up here. And Jericho says, aren't they rich? A lot of them are, yes. Jane says, Studio City, California burned up, coming to Georgia State for movie studio work and setup. And New York Patriot says, I'll play nice and concede their climate change argument. Okay, now where's the water to put the fires out? California has a record rain and snowfall. I'm going to get to that here. In a minute. New York Patriot also says total mismanagement. Jane is worried about the animals. This is animals and air quality after the fires will be horrible. Yeah, a lot of abandoned pets they're having issues with now. And let me see here. Tuck says the fire may or may not have been arson, but the wildfire response was intentionally sabotaged by local and state officials. I can agree with some of that. Jane says, what inmates trained? Where is water from ocean or planes dropping water to get fires out? You're not going to get it. But yeah, they train inmates in wildfire areas to act as reserve smoke jumpers. And by the way, they get paid something like 20 cents an hour for it. And Vulgar says people letting lesser people govern them reap the consequences of allowing the degradation of civilization. We're getting to that too today because there's a lot to unpack. We'll probably spend the whole hour talking about it. Monkey has joined us. And Johnny said, I don't wish this upon anybody's home, but all the celebrities have more incentive to leave the country now than they don't have a house. Good riddance. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Good riddance. It goes on to talk about all of the damage that's been doing. It says, farther inland, the Eaton fire north of Pasadena, Pasadena, excuse me, I read that all backwards. The farther inland, the Eaton fire north of Pasadena burned between 2 to 500 structures, substantially damaged 5 schools, campuses in Altadena, and scorched more than 16.5 square miles. Employees at a senior center pushed dozens of residents in wheelchairs and hospital beds to a parking lot to escape. Well, at least they didn't leave them there like with Hurricane Katrina. Remember all the pictures of like old people sitting in the common area up to their shoulders in water? Oh my God. So it's all over the place. All over the place. But yeah, we're really going to South Florida says Trump asked Newsom to dam up rivers for water, and he said no. That's right. He did refuse. He did refuse, and we're going to get into that too. But first, we're going to take a look at the mayor of Los Angeles. The mayor of Los Angeles here, and her part in this, Karen Bass. We're going to start running down the DEI hire list here in a moment. So this is a New York Post article. LA Mayor Karen Bass cut fire department funding by $17.6 million and focused that money on homeless spending months before wildfires turned city into a hellscape. So Mayor Karen Bass faced scorching criticism. Oh, that's a good pun. Wednesday, as it was revealed she cut the city's fire department budget by $17.6 million ahead of this week's devastating fires, as she prioritized funds for its massive homeless population that largely went unspent, according to the reports. The cut was the second largest in Bass's 24-25 fiscal budget, city figures show, and it wasn't even the gutting she wanted. If she had her way, the Los Angeles Fire Department budget would have been slashed by $23 million. LA budgeted $837 million for the bravest in the fiscal year of 23-24, which was shockingly 65% of the $1.3 billion slated for the homeless. A city comptroller study found that nearly half of the funding went unused, according to the outlet. And by the homeless, we don't just mean the homeless. We also mean migrants, and we also mean drug participation kits for addicts. Let's be clear. Let's be clear on that. Her budget cuts resurfaced as the LAFD issued a rare plea asking off-duty firefighters to join the battle against 3 massive wildfires burning across the city, which were kicked up Tuesday by nearly 100-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds and have proceeded to grow by the hour. And the other article suggested it was 70 miles an hour. This one says 100. At least 70,000 people have been ordered to evacuate. I think the number is now over 180,000 from their homes as the fires become the most destructive in the city's history. Quote, it's about leadership management that we're seeing a failure of, and all these residents are paying the ultimate price for that, according to Rick Caruso. He's an LA developer. He's the one that lost the mayoral election to Bass in 2022, by the way. So she slashed their budget. JJ offers another pun. It said, will she be fired? We will see. We will see. Tuck says the sabotage goes back a ways. Obama refused to support the purchase of a fleet of firefighting aircraft, but we got an ACA website. Solyndra didn't work, cash for clunkers, and etc. Indeed. And Kimberly is here, says they're a little late. That's okay, Kimberly. Glad you could join us. as we continue to look on here. Frankie says the winds were between 75 to 90 miles an hour. Yeah, there's all sorts of conflicting reports on how intense the winds actually were. Los Angeles, it says, as the flames kicked up Tuesday and exploded overnight into Wednesday, Bass was 7,400 miles away in Guyana, where she was celebrating the inauguration of President John Dramani Mahama. Quote, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is on a taxpayer-funded trip to Africa as part of a Biden administration presidential delegation while her city is burning to the ground. Exactly. So she's on political protocol trip on the taxpayer dime. And her first instinct should have been to come straight back. Well, it wasn't. You would think that that's what should have happened. You'd think that's what should have happened, but that's not what happened. She stayed her butt right there. I think she's on the way back now. but it's too little too late here. It says Bass finally returned. Okay, here it is. Bass finally returned to Los Angeles Wednesday, where she met with Governor Newsom amid the torched rubble as flames still burned uncontained across the city. Oh, here we go. There's Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's house right here in Malibu. Oh, well, Mark, you said you were going to leave. That's what was being made fun of earlier. He said if Trump won, he's one of these celebrities that said he was out. I am out if Trump wins. Well, that's what you get, Mark. I know, I'm such a bastard. It's okay. Frankie says, I'm in LA, so I know how strong the wind blew. Okay. Kimberly wants to know, is it true? Have you heard that the hydrants had no water? We're getting to that, Kimberly. We are getting to that. I think it's funny that they're going to show where Mark Hamill's house is here. Oh, well, poor Mark Hamill. He'll have to raise his already exorbitant autograph prices now, I guess. As her plane touched down, Bass refused to respond when news reporters asked if she regretted cutting the fire department's budget, traveling to Guyana, or whether she had any words of apology to the citizens of Los Angeles. No comment. No comment. She's not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Not sorry, not sorry. There's your diversity hire, folks. You get what you pay for. Actually, you pay quite a bit because these people make good money. They make good money. They get a lot of benefits. They're well taken care of. There's a lot of prestige. All you want is for them to do the damn job. Tuck suggests that a lot of these folks had vicious things to say about hurricane victims. Yeah. Raccoon says, karma is a bitch, Hollywood. I just feel bad for the animals, not the Hollywood dipshits. Yeah. And you know how we have our like cat shelter and our abandoned and otherwise neglected animals that we take care of. So yeah, I totally feel that. Monkey says the hydrants, I remember you reading about them being stolen in Oakland a year or two ago. That's right. There's a problem with that, with them stealing the hydrants for scrap. But there's another problem that, like I said, we're going to get into. Vulgar says not only the rich will be able to rebuild there, it'll be a place for the rich. Now the common people got burned out. Oh, no. Got burned out. That is correct. But that's your DEI mayor. Let's see who else we can dig up. Now, this already came up, and Kimberly asked about it first. Here is your information about the fire hydrants, and this will be a Time Magazine article. This will be a Time Magazine article that we're going to pull up here. It says what to know about the LA fire hydrants that ran dry most. The water system used to fight the Palisades fire in Los Angeles buckled under the demands of what turned out to be the most destructive fire in the city's history, with some hydrants running dry, more than just some, okay, as they were overstressed without assistance from firefighting aircraft for hours early Wednesday. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power was pumping from aqueducts and groundwater into the system, but demand was so high that it wasn't enough to refill the 3 1-million-gallon tanks in hilly Pacific Palisades that help pressurize the hydrants for that neighborhood. Many went dry as at least 1,000 buildings were engulfed in flames. The dry hydrants prompted a swirl of, including from President-elect Donald Trump against Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom and their water management policies. But state and local officials and experts forcefully hit back, saying critics were connecting unrelated issues and spreading false information during a crisis. State water distribution choices were not behind the hydrant problems, they said, nor was a lack of overall supply in the region. That is not entirely true. They had another resource that they could have tapped for refilling those gravity feed systems, the 3 tanks, the 3 million gallon tanks they're talking about. They had another system that they could have tapped, and Governor Newsom said no because there was an endangered fish in that lake, and he didn't want to cross the indigenous people in that area. Just to summarize, okay? Just to summarize. JJ says, I wouldn't say you get what you pay for in this case. California taxes are high, so citizens are getting high cost ineptitude. And all people thinks that the California fire was set on purpose for a land grab, which is one of the theories that's going around right now. All people says Reagan's actions in the 80s is what changed California demographics and made it possible for California to become a blue state via mass and largely illegal migration. And it doesn't help. Schwarzenegger didn't help either. He did not leave it better than he found it. Patriot said, not even will the rich will be able to rebuild. The building permit process in California takes years. Bill Maher knows about this all too well when he tried to install solar panels on his house. As we catch up here really quickly, Puck said, funny how post East Palestine, Hurricane Helene, etc., those same people playing politics then now want to put politics aside for the California fire. Indeed. But they're trying to pay it off. But there were more water resources that could have been accessed, and they were not because of endangered fish. They could have figured it out. And unfortunately, some of this is going to fall on water management, but they can only do what they're allowed to do ultimately. They can only do what they're allowed to do when you get down to the bottom line. So yeah, not enough water was available. Monkey says if an earthquake hits LA, they're finished. They're really gone. Yeah, they couldn't sustain another disaster at the moment. And you know, scorched earth, maybe they need it. Who knows? Who knows? But that's what's going on. And Trump criticized him for it. It was like, you know, you had other resources, you didn't use them. And Newsom is like, I'm not even going to respond to that. Newsom really can't take criticism very well if you haven't noticed. But who's in charge at Water and Power, by the way? Who's in charge at Water and Power? Daily Caller article. LA Water and Power officials rake in fat salaries as fire hydrants run dry. They do get paid phenomenally well. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power officials raked in enormous taxpayer-funded paychecks before its fire hydrants ran dry in the fight against massive fires in the area, according to analysis by Open the Books, a government transparency organization. 8 of the top 10 highest paid city officials in Los Angeles work for water and power. 8 out of 10 of the highest paid officials in Los Angeles work for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Think about that. Think about that. It says we had tremendous demand on our system in the Palisades. We pushed the system to the extreme, according to CEO Genesi Quinones. 4 times the normal demand was seen for 15 hours straight, and it lowered our water pressure, which is understandable. But then again, they had another resource that was not tapped, and Newsom intercepted that, apparently. Okay? Quinones took the top job at LADWP, or Water Department, we'll just say, in 2024, landing a salary of $750,000, $750,000. Wow. To local outlet ABC7. Her compensation package marks a major step up from her predecessor and Los Angeles City Council officials that stated at the time that the higher salary was necessary to attract high quality talent from the private sector, particularly because of the challenge of meeting green energy targets. So she's a diversity hire. Water Department load dispatcher Mark Chambers takes home $857,458 in total compensation, including his salary, overtime, and other pay, while fellow load dispatcher Kenneth McCrank made $787,000 that same year, $787,000. Gary Caravo, an electrical service manager for the Water Department, takes in more than $782,000. Elsewhere in the department, electric distribution mechanic William Santana made $763,675, followed by Water Department Senior Electrical Repair Supervisor Jason Contreras and his $763,195 in compensation for the same year. Wow. And then another one, Greg Martin, electrical distribution mechanic, $740,000. And then, this guy's barely able to butter his bread here. Brad Weller only made $606,095. Meanwhile, the mayor only gets $300,000 a year. Wow. Incredible. And I'm way behind on comments, so I can't pull them all up here. H12 has joined us. Glad you're here. He says, purified by fire and wind. Yes, biblically speaking, fire either purifies or destroys. Kimberly said, endangered fish versus human lives. I mean, the DNR can open a breeding program for fish, which should already have been done. And it's not even about the fish. It's about the tribal leaders that he has to butt heads with. That's what he cares about. Oh, my God. I'm just going to jump ahead here. JJ says, I don't think high quality means what it used to. And Rusty says he's been homeless in L.A. for over 4 months. There were ashes landing on my tarp and makeshift shelter this morning. Interesting. But those are some massive salaries. God, those are massive salaries. I mean, these people are closing in on $1 million for operating watershed, watershed. I'm in the wrong line of work. I'll tell you what. Tuck says, who can survive on $606,000 annually? Might as well just walk right to the homeless shelter. I know. Holy crap. I'll work for $606,000 for 1 year and retire. Somebody hire me. Somebody hire me. Unbelievable. Now, this was brought up yesterday, so it's a good thing that it popped into the news feeds. I was looking for it anyways because somebody had mentioned it. And this is going to be a Newsweek article coming up here. Yeah, Jericho says wrong line of work. I know. It's the catch phrase. It's the catchphrase. I say that all the time. I'm in the wrong line of work when I see these corrupt people, people in government, people in politics that are just getting over and making a fortune for basically nothing and stealing money and everything. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it, but it sucks that they can. It sucks that they can pull down that kind of money and accomplish nothing or cheat people. You know, it's embarrassing. Newsweek article, fact check. Did California donate firefighting equipment to the Ukraine? Oh my. As firefighters continue to battle devastating fires raging in the Los Angeles region, some have brought up California agencies donating firefighting supplies to the Ukraine. At least five wildfires have burned through almost 30,000 acres since Tuesday, growing fast in high winds and causing at least 5 deaths. Blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the point. The claim. Multiple people have noted on social media that California fire departments have donated firefighting equipment to the Ukraine. So, and as well as the Post, San Francisco, the Post said that San Francisco Fire Department and other Bay Area agencies donated equipment in 2022. In addition, that Los Angeles County Fire Department donated supplies in March of 22. Fire agencies in Santa Barbara County also in April of 22, and the city of San Jose a millions worth of safety equipment in July of 2022. The facts. What are the facts here? Where are we? Lost my place. There we go. Fire departments and states have donated safety equipment to the Ukraine following the invasion in February of 2022. The Los Angeles County Fire Department said in March of 22 it would gather and donate surplus equipment and gear to help first responders in the Ukraine. Hoses, nozzles, turnouts, helmets, body armor, and other associated personal protective equipment. And so their analysis, rating, true. A number of fire departments in California did indeed donate firefighting supplies to be sent to the Ukraine. The state also sent medical supplies and protective gear to help first responders in the Ukraine. Yep. So they did indeed donate their surplus equipment. Johnny suggests that at $600,000 he can finally afford an autograph from Mark Hamill. Yeah, he's up there. Mark Hamill is expensive. All people said California had long taken away the vote from citizens, especially long-term generational citizens, and handed it over to the post-migrants. Post-migrants. Where are we here as I catch up? Johnny says, I don't see the governor ask for the equipment back from the Ukraine. Now, do we? You'll never get that back. And Tuck suggests that virtue signaling can be costly, it seems. Yeah, it's extremely costly, as we're about to see. Virtue signaling by not pumping extra water because of fish, because of indigenous Indians. And then virtue signaling because of sending equipment to the Ukraine, so we can act like we're down with that because Biden was so deep in it. And God, those salaries. I don't know what to say about the amount of money that those people make. I don't know if it's justifiable. There you go. Puck says California was rewarded for their donations with federal DEI cash. Perhaps so, but they didn't use any of that money to replace any of the equipment, as far as I know. We're still in Newsweek here. because taking a look at the fire chief, because there's some interesting things about this. Who is Kristen Crowley? Los Angeles fire chief faces waves of anger, I bet. Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley is facing a wave of anger amid wildfires in the state, which have forced thousands to evacuate. It comes as authorities have said the 4 fires, which have burned more than 4,000 acres, have not yet been contained. Some firefighters have also reported hydrants being dry, preventing them from being able to stop the blazes, according to reports. Such reports have prompted social media users to slam Crowley's leadership of the fire department. So far, oh, they talk about the deaths. Let me see here. See if I can find the right spot here, because they're talking about the fires themselves. That's not what I'm looking for in this particular article. Authorities cases are contained. There is no possibility of control. According to the LA Fire Department, the situation remains very dangerous and wind speeds are worsening. Los Angeles Times reports some firefighters battling the blaze said on internal radio systems hydrants are coming up dry. They do not have enough water to put out fires. LA Department of Water and Power spokesman confirms reports of reduced water flow from hydrants, provides no details on the number or scope of the issue. In statements to the LA Times, agency said crews are working to maintain water supply, which rely on tanks. Extent and cause of the problems remain unclear. Similar hydrant issues hampered firefighting efforts during Ventura County's mountain fire in November, when inactive water pumps delayed hillside water deliveries. And here we go. Who is Kristen Crowley? This is where it starts getting weird. And I see Cyberjack Sr. has joined us. Glad you could make it. And Vulgar says, how many DEI hires does it take to put out a fire? Not enough. Who is Kristen Crowley? Crowley is the first woman/openly LGBTQ person to hold the position. She is married to a retired firefighter named Holland Bullock. Her nomination came after the former fire chief Ralph Terrazas stepped down amid growing scrutiny for not doing enough to stop sexist and racist behavior within the LA Fire Department. So, and they go on to say that at the time Crowley was nominated to the position, not due to gender, but due to her ability and skill with public safety challenges. Okay, let's reiterate that. The former fire chief, Ralph Terrazas, quit. He resigned because he was being put under pressure by the government officials of Los Angeles County, because they said he doesn't do enough to stop sexist and racist behavior. Basically, people are making claims of discrimination, and they don't think he's doing enough about it, which I find highly questionable, because in this day and age, someone's giving you a hard time because of your race or color. I mean, race or color, your color or your gender or whatever. A phone call will fix that. Nobody gets away with shit anymore. This isn't 1950, okay? He doesn't want to hear it anymore. He quits. They recommend Kristen Crowley, and they say that she gets the position not due to her gender, but due to her abilities and skill with, quote, public safety challenges. Now, this article doesn't tell you what her skills are, but I'm going to tell you what they are. I'm going to tell you what they are, okay? Because I've got this pulled up here. Patriot says Crowley was more worried about how diverse the department is as opposed to what they need to be effective. Those prisoners are probably more qualified than any of her DEI hires. And that's kind of where I'm going here. I'm going to pull up an image. This picture tells it all, okay? This picture tells it all. Let me get this picture open. Get this going here. That is Crowley with the deputy chief and the chief training officer. That's who you're looking at there. Okay, for those of you who can see, that is Crowley with the deputy chief and the chief training officer. That's who that is. All female leadership in the fire department. All right. So what are Crowley's qualifications? Let's see. Let's see what her qualifications are. Let's read. Kristen M. Crowley, you can't see what I'm reading here. This is like Wikipedia stuff. Kristen M. Crowley is the 19th fire chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department. With her wife and children by her side, Chief Crowley took the oath of office on March 25th, 2022. And remember, she is a lesbian, so her wife is another female. And children are, I don't know where they got the kids from, adopted or what, I don't know. Becoming the first female and LGB fire chief in the Los Angeles Fire Department. She served as an executive board member for the Chief Officers Association and the Women in the Fire Service. Chief Crowley chairs the Fire Code Committee for Los Angeles and serves at the Los Angeles Fire Department Leadership Academy as a facilitator and instructor. What kind of instruction does Crowley do, you might ask? Well, let's see what it says. Creating, supporting, and promoting a culture that values diversity, inclusion, and equity while striving to meet and exceed the expectations of the communities are Chief Crowley's priorities, and she is grateful for the opportunity to serve the city of Los Angeles. It sounds to me like she's a bureaucrat whose job it is to shine a seat with her ass. I don't know what qualifications she has as far as being a firefighter is concerned. That I can't tell you. All people said Kristen Crowley has the same surname as the infamous devil worshiper known as Aleister Crowley. Yes. Don't ever read his books. Read the titles. Don't read the books. The titles are scary. And Jane says, are those women in fire chief outfits? Yes, those are all women. And they look to me like they're all LGB, just off the cuff. I don't know that for sure, but that's what it is. John suggests what her skill is. Nope, they're all LGB. I don't think they do that, John. Oh, Puck, you're even worse. I can't read those on YouTube. You're going to get me in trouble. New York Patriot says the one on the right was certified by LA and Donut Inspection. You guys are awful. Jane says, in a fire, I want a male firefighter, real man to save me. Sorry if anyone is offended. I am not mad at you. I will tell you in my personal experience. In my personal experience, all right. I've in the last few years, I've been or seen 2 fires. Okay. One was a house fire that was actually down the street from where I am. And one was a chimney fire when I was still living in Illinois. So I was out there when the fire department came to put those fires out. Now, in Illinois, there were 2 female firefighters. Okay. So they get off the truck. They get off the trucks to put out the chimney fire, right? And all the firefighters, they get out, they unroll the hoses, they hook up, they open up the lines, they climb it up the side of the house. They got the boom ladder over the house, the cherry picker. And there's guys walking around on the roof and whatever, okay? The 2 women never did a thing. They stood in front of one of the trucks and talked to each other. They didn't pull hoses. They didn't turn on the hydrant. They didn't hook anything up. They didn't operate a radio. They didn't climb on the house. They didn't do anything. They stood there. Fast forward to the fire that took place up the street here. It was a bedroom fire, okay? A few houses down from me, there was a fire in a bedroom, and it actually burned up, I think, almost the whole second story of the house. Street was lined with fire trucks, okay? There's probably 20 firefighters out here. 3 females, I think it was 3. Firemen running around, running hoses, shifting vehicles around, lifting buckets, breaking in doors, climbing up the side of the house, doing what you expect firefighters to do. Okay? The 3 female firefighters standing around in front of a truck talking to each other. They didn't do anything. I was watching them. Didn't do anything. It's like, what are these women doing? They didn't even have their gear all the way on. They had the because they get into the jumper sets. The jacket was down and tied around their waist. They weren't even tied all the way up. And it makes you wonder, because I mean, physically, there is a huge difference. I'm sorry, get upset if you want to. There is physically a very big difference between males and females because they're designed for different functions. They're designed for different functions. Men and women are built differently for a reason. And yeah, dragging hoses and busting down a wall or kicking in a door or jumping onto a house from a bucket is more in line for a male than a female. And it must be sweet to have a job and say, oh yeah, I'm a firefighter. And your job is basically to stand around in front of the damn truck. And I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but that's what I saw. Johnny says, I think if she approaches a fire with her DEI credentials instead of a fire extinguisher, the fire is 200% more likely to self-extinguish itself. Okay. Oh, Patriot says, why do they all look like they have approved haircuts by North Korea? Oh my gosh, you guys. Puck says, everyone needs to watch My Dinner with Andre if you haven't. Very prophetic. Nature Nerd says, LA and Santa Monica are literally burning and Newsom refuses to let the water reservoirs to flow to its population. Centers just the ocean instead. Correct. Johnny says, those 3 female firefighters want to be treated equal, but they don't want to work equally. No, they do not. And sorry if I'm behind on comments. Kimberly says, don't they have to pass a physical to become a firefighter? What is the point if you can't do the job? There's different standards for a male and a female. That's how. Just like in the military or anywhere else where there's a physical challenge. And I've brought this up before because when I first noticed this, it was in the Forestry Service. And that was in, I can't remember if it was 2020 or 60 Minutes. I've mentioned this before. 2020 or 60 Minutes did an expose on it way back decades ago. This was like late 80s, early 90s, probably early 90s, because the forest rangers were complaining about it because they had an initiative then to get more female forest rangers. And the dudes were like, hey, listen, they don't have the same physical training standard. They don't have the same written test standard. They can't, in my opinion, they can't do the job. I don't want them here. If they can do the same physical training test I can, and they can take the same exam that I can, I got nothing to say. But their standard is lower than ours, just to put women in here so that the Forestry Service can say that they did it. And it was a huge, big deal. It was a huge, big deal. Like I said, I don't remember if it was 2020 or 60 Minutes. It was one of them complaining about that then. They don't have the same standard. The standards are lowered. But if the standards are lowered, that means they can't do it. That's the problem. And that's scary. If you can't do it, I don't want you to do it. I mean, does that not make sense to anyone? Raccoon says different standards. I thought they wanted to be equal. Yeah, equal but different. Equal my way. Dragon says, without men to keep the economy and infrastructure going, these women would not be able to keep up their comfy, cushy lifestyle. I know, it must be nice. I wonder how much they make for that. I wonder how much they actually earn for all of that. But again, reading this here, her qualifications, her big claim to fame is being the first female and LGB fire chief in the Los Angeles Fire Department. It's history, folks. She's making history. Oh my God. And again, something being making history doesn't make it historic. This is not historic. It's not important at all. And she served as an executive board member for the Chief Officers Association and the Women in the Fire Service. Again, shines her seat with an ass and makes red tape and bureaucracy for everyone. Chairs the Fire Committee for Los Angeles and serves as the Los Angeles Fire Department Leadership Academy as a facilitator and instructor. And again, what is the instruction? Creating, supporting, and promoting a culture that values diversity, inclusion, and equity while striving to meet and exceed the expectations of the communities. And she is grateful, so grateful for the opportunity to serve the city of Los Angeles. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Nature Nerd says, my grandpa was a forest ranger and he remembered the chaos when DEI was first introduced and they tried to make half the government jobs female. Patriot says, I don't mean to knock anyone. I have a friend who is LG. She's 5'2", cop, had to go hands and plenty of times. She hates all of the DEI stuff. Johnny says, I'm all for women's rights, but I'm also for women's physical capabilities and limits thereof. And Tuck suggests at least 75% of all DMV employees are women. That's not enough, I guess. Puck says, same thing in the military. Females also got favorable treatment when it came to height and weight standards. I bet. Different standards. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. But what are you going to do? Which is what's suggested here. And this is a Tampa Free Press article coming up here. So we get ready to get going. California by massive fires after the LA Fire Department spent years pushing racial equity. Los Angeles Fire Department committed significant resources to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives before the outbreak of massive fires that devastated the Los Angeles area overnight. The LAFD has implemented an internal race equity plan, subjected employees to diversity training, and is currently led by Chief Kristen Crowley, the first female and LGB fire chief in the Los Angeles Fire Department, and a staunch supporter of those initiatives. I bet that's how she got the job. As strong winds fed the wildfires Tuesday evening, former Republican Los Angeles mayoral candidate Rick Caruso reported some fire hydrants were running low on water as the department scrambled to mobilize firefighters. Of course, the department's racial equity plan, which is also a gender equity plan, by the way, adopted in 2021, asserts that the LAFD is a better firefighting organization for focusing on the demographic characteristics of personnel. I see. Quote, the strength of any organization rests in its great resource, its people, and the LAFD leadership cannot accomplish any of the racial equity and inclusion goals without the employees to accomplish the work and embrace the vision while being guided by competent leadership. It has been concluded and realized that the more talent, skills, perspectives, insight, knowledge, and abilities acquired through racial equity and inclusion, the stronger and more effective and competitive the organization has become. And that is a direct quote out of the LAFD Racial Equity Plan booklet. LAFD Racial Equity Plan booklet. So I guess if you make things more diverse, as opposed to, let's say, superior training, that'll make it somehow better. Nature Nerd suggests it's unbelievable how California can't fill fire hydrants despite paying the highest taxes in the country. Raccoon says they saw a video on an all-female owned and operated car repair shop. No way am I bringing my car there. Nature Nerd asks, why can't California cities hook up fire hydrant pumps to the oceans if they really wanted to conserve fresh water? Well, over time, the salt water would damage all the lines. So it's not good to pump salt water. That's actually why they shut down Alcatraz, because they used ocean water for Alcatraz instead of fresh water for all of the plumbing, showers, toilets, whatever. And it destroyed all of the existing plumbing. The salt water did. It tore it apart, and it was so bad it was cheaper to just abandon the island than it was to try to fix it all. Kimberly says, I'm of course for the rights of others, but at some point, common sense should kick in. Women should be held to the same standards as men when applying for these positions. But they can't. They want to be, separate but equal. They're not. We're just designed differently. That's just all there is to it. I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with that. But people have been convinced that there is something wrong with that. The whole women's liberation thing has convinced people there's something wrong with that. They told everybody that they were equal. Then they told women that they didn't need a man. Then they told women they're better than men. And now we're at the point where men have been told that they can be women. And then those men break into women's activities, pretending to be female, and dominate those activities, sports in particular. And there's nothing those feminists can say about it because, we're all the same. They've created a huge mess, and that's hard to walk that kind of stuff back. How do you walk that back? How do you walk all that back? But this article is suggesting, of course, that California for years has been undermining itself with DEI policies that have ultimately destroyed the infrastructure of their government and of their operating procedures. Vulgar says it's not about equal rights, it's about cherry picking to consume power. I bet if the Titanic were to happen again, they'd want to get off first. But if it's equal, it's everyone for themselves. And Patriot says there's a channel called John Hicks. He's riding through LA disaster zones. Interesting. Yeah, I bet it looks really bad right now. Brian says feminism, as we are well aware of, is not about equality. No, it isn't. It's about getting over. And I'll remind you all that, and it's most prominently talked about in the third volume of The Wizard of Oz from Balm, the original Wizard of Oz series. When the women feminists came to Oz to invade, and they knocked on the door, and the guard answered the door, and he says, you don't have authorization, I'm not letting you in. And they cried. They sat there and cried, and he felt bad, so he opened the door, and when he did, they all stabbed him to death with hat pins. During the feminist movement, you saw a lot of that kind of crap, where women were, during the suffrage movement, Women were starting fires, throwing rocks and bricks, destroying cars, destroying stores, smashing out windows. They were extremely violent. And then when they get arrested, oh, how dare you? I'm a woman. Yeah. So there's a huge double standard, and they enjoy it. Trust me, they enjoy it because it's within human nature to try to get over. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. Still have Miss Kitty sitting in the background there. Hey, Miss Kitty, you ignoring me? She's probably out cold. So again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk, and Prepper University. You can find me now also simultaneously podcasting to Rumble, and that's Coffee Talk 2. Coffee Talk 2. Yeah, Kimberly says they also burned their bras. Well, that was in the 60s that they did that, but and which was a foolish idea anyways. You want to burn a symbol of women being sexualized, burn your high heel shoes. They're bad for your feet anyways. The bra serves a purpose. Anyways, you can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Again, if you happen to be watching on Rumble, I can't see the comments. I can only see comments from YouTube on Restream. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will catch you all again tomorrow.